A little bit about me, my friends. I've been here in United States for over 20 years, but originally I'm from Azerbaijan, but study also in Russia, in India, in China, in United States, and I specialized for 19 and a half years in hypnotherapy, counseling, life coaching, and 9.5 years ago I started studying spirituality. And what I would tell right now that what made a difference in my life the most is the spiritual knowledge that I got from Ayurveda, Vedic knowledge, and yoga knowledge. But a lot of people think of yoga is doing this asanas, which is poses, which there are more than 50,000 of them. But the true yoga is about the mindset, how you live life, how you treat others. So there's a deep spiritual knowledge about yoga, and that's what I've been studying lately. And so a year and a half ago I fully stopped working. Now I just enjoy being a mom, a wife, and I do podcasts and I go live on YouTube, on TikTok, and make a difference with my followers and friends. And I also lead a feminine groups every week in my clubhouse and in my home, where friends and people, followers online, join me to learn spiritual teaching, feminine teachings that I share with my followers. So this is a little bit about me.
I love to hear that. I think the thing that drew me to you the most is that I don't see a lot of models of women who are living from such deep contribution, deep spirituality, and the femininity that is mainstream, in my opinion, is just scratching the surface. But the true femininity has the foundation of deep spirituality.
Yes.
And so with my journey with spirituality over the last 10 years, as I became more and more feminine, just as a consequence of my spirituality, I found myself in this space where I'm not wanting to build a 7-figure empire and be this boss babe. And so to have this conversation with you, I'm sure there's going to be more and more women trickling in, wanting to see, how is this done? How did you let go of your quote purpose, right? It's because you're still in purpose to me. How did you let go? How was that transition for you? And what prompted that decision?
Yeah, well, I think I can relate to most women now in the West because for the longest time, we've been taught by self and growth development organizations, which I was part of them, where women can achieve anything. And I think a lot of those courses that are out there for self and growth development are good for men. They're designed for men to become successful, to become go-getter, to achieve things and become true leader, provider, and protector. But if we are connecting this knowledge to spirituality in all spiritual books, the more I read, the more I understand the depth of it. The victory of yourself and to become successful is designed for men. They're born to have a victory over themselves and become the successful person that can truly provide and protect the family. But it's not designed for women. And so back in my 20s and early 30s, I was like many women. I wanted to become successful, and so I was running my private practice, and I started making 6 figures. And at the same time, I realized I am so overwhelmed. I am anxious. I am depressed. I come home like a squeezed lemon. I have no energy. No energy to go dating. No energy to meet with my friends. And even if I will meet with my girlfriends, the conversation was mainly about money and how much more we can achieve. And so I start learning, okay, what can I do? How can I be happy? And so I start taking a lot of feminine courses. I realized that men like feminine women, and they were intimidated by me. And I'm like, why I cannot attract a man? What's wrong with me? And so I start taking feminine courses. But the more courses I was taking, the more men were intimidated by me even more. So nothing helped, because the strategies would help for a date. But on the second and third date, I was bankrupt because I was still making money, working only several hours a week, working with very successful people. Some of them were celebrities, some of them were CEOs. And so money was not a problem, but my inner self was crumbling, truly crumbling. And so only when I started studying spirituality, I realized the true purpose of a woman is not to become a provider, protector, and successful, but rather become feminine and understand her duty. And our duty as a woman, main duty, is to become happy. And woman can be happy only in a relationship, not single. Because even if you make $5 million, even if you have the biggest home, even if you have Lamborghinis and Ferraris, but if you're single or if your relationship is not working, you will not be happy. So for us, happiness comes in a family and in a relationship. And so the more I start cutting out the hours at work, the more I start connecting to my own true femininity. And then eventually when I met my future husband, I will start having this conversation that when I'm gonna become a mother, I either gonna fully let go of career or I'm gonna work maybe a few hours a week. And so the first year of our marriage, I start working only 4 hours a week. So I start connecting even more and more deeper to my femininity. And a year and a half, it took me literally, my friends, 5 years to fully let go of my career. It's not easy. It's an illusion that it's easy, but I had to face my own fears. How can I depend fully on my husband? How I can let go of career where I have so many degrees and I studied in 4 different countries. And so I had to, little by little, by doing meditation, by doing affirmation, my fear starting to decrease and my confidence level, the faith and trust starting to increase. And my husband every year would say, let go, let go. And so finally COVID hit and I realized I cannot do it anymore. And so I'm grateful to COVID because the COVID year broke me, broke my soul, broke my mind. I don't know how to even explain that, where I couldn't get to the session anymore because all of my body, all of my soul was telling me, enough, I am done. And so 2020 was kind of the last year and I realized I don't have fear anymore. But at the same time, when I let go in 2021, first 3 months was uncomfortable. For sure uncomfortable. It's like, okay, what are we gonna do? We have $200,000 less a year per household, but at the same time, this money I was spending on fun. Vacations, clothes, and I realized I don't need that many vacations. I don't need that much clothes. I don't need brand names, shoes, bags, and etc. And when I let go of work, I realized I don't even need those things. And now the less I have, the happier I am as a woman. Because now what's more important is the quality relationship with my husband, with my son, with my friends, with my relatives. And that at the core, what makes me happy as a woman. The stress is at the zero, a little here with son, and school educational system, but it's little peanuts compared to being at work and being in a masculine energy. Because when we women at work, we're using our masculine energy, and that what hurts our soul, it hurts our mind, and it hurts our physical body.
Absolutely. I totally resonate with this, and I know some listeners are probably going to resonate. And I was like making the most money I've ever made, like someone's salary in 1 month, and I was sitting in my car and I was just like, where's the intimacy in my life?
Yeah.
I haven't seen my grandmother.
Yeah.
I haven't seen my family. I don't have a partner.
Yeah.
I was emotionally desolate.
Yeah.
And I had all this money. And when I met my partner now, and he stepped in as a provider, and he's like, you work if you want to.
Yeah.
That was like, okay, I'll accept that. But it's been 2 years since I accepted that. And I kept working, but kind of going lower and lower. And like you said, the more happiness and peace I had inside, the less I had the craving. However, there was a lot of conditioning and ego deaths that came with, for me, it was longer than 3 months.
Yes.
A lot of so what was the most challenging aspect for you? Did you find yourself going through any kind of ego death or any kind of identity crisis? It wouldn't be as extreme to call it a crisis, but did you go through anything like that during that time?
Yeah, this first 3 months, first it was a shocker and fears like, wow, I let go of something that I was going for all my life. Then kicked in the sadness and loneliness. It's like, what's next? But what helped is the meditation. Because inside of the meditation, because another thing that I forgot to mention, in 2020, I got a really loud knock on my soul. And I heard that my calling is actually bring the education, spiritual education. So going back to the purpose when we talked about woman is born for happiness, and the happiness happens in the family. But the second purpose is to discover why she is here, to give either knowledge or to help the community. But she gotta do it outside of the family, only a few hours a day. So she doesn't overwhelmed and doesn't take other people's stresses and brings it home, which a lot of masculine women who are career driven do that. And so when I realized in the meditation that my purpose is to bring education, and I remember that during these 3 months, I realized, well, now I can do anything. What do I want to do? Well, I want to share education, how I'm going to do it. And I just start calling my girlfriends. I said, listen, I've been studying spirituality for this long. Would you be interested if I share with you? And girlfriends started to show up. Then I started going on YouTube Live and then on TikTok Live. And everything started to come together because it's not like I'm doing nothing. I am truly utilizing my purpose, why I'm even here. And it's not just being a mom and being a wife. I'm also contributing to society by bringing the education to women and men and families, because my goal is to help men and women to come together. Because right now, more than ever, men and women feels like in war with each other. Because men cannot feel like they can truly connect to women because we are so successful. They cannot even appreciate and admire men. And men, if they don't feel appreciated and admired and respected, they lose their masculinity. And if a woman makes $100,000 a year, he feels like, why do I need to provide? She can do it all by herself. And that makes them feminine. They become more and more lazy because we as a women, we have a lot of power, and our power is the influence. And we're taking their power away and becoming like men ourselves. And by doing that, they become feminine in order to stay in a relationship with us. Because masculine and masculine cannot stay together. Then this couple will be constantly fighting. They're fighting for power and who is more important in the relationship. But this sounds kind of ridiculous. Why somebody should be more important? Both are important. But each man and woman has their duties. And woman gotta bring the harmony, love, and happiness into family. And she cannot do it because when she goes to work, she gives all of her love, the little that she has. Because most of the people don't do affirmation or meditation, right? And so the little love that they have, they give it all to workplace. And they come home depleted. And then what can men get from this kind of woman who is just success and work-oriented? They get nothing. And then eventually men start cheating because they are depleted from this feminine woman who is not giving them love, admiration, and appreciation. And then women are calling, well, men are all cheaters, without even thinking that 90% of the time women are responsible to why men are cheating in the first place. Because men can buy everything. They can do laundry, they can buy food, they can cook food. The only thing they cannot buy is this feminine energy. And that's why they need woman. But when woman is goal-oriented, success-oriented, she doesn't think about it because she is driven by what feminism and what movies and TV channels are showing. A lot of successful women making a lot of money. And she thinks that's going to make her happy because it's everywhere now. And she's not even questioning, does it really make her happy?
Yes. And I think that that's the main highlight is that what is our measuring stick for success? And when I've been surrounded by beautiful model-looking women who are successful and completely alone and lonely.
Yeah.
And I always wondered, okay, there has to be a reason. Like people would come up to them, why are you still single?
Yeah.
And I feel that it's difficult to break up with that because something that you said was the first duty, happiness. I love that because, and I'm going to dive into that later about how the feminine transforms the world and the masculine.
Yeah.
I want to know about that. I'm going to bookmark that. But I'm deeply curious about the people that know their purpose, because there's a lot of people that I work with, such as myself, who was like, I'm a teacher, I'm a spiritual teacher, that is what it is. But without the, let's build this 500,000 7-figure empire, it lost its luster. And you work, but really only a self-actualized person, I feel, can truly contribute, right?
Yes.
And so you don't create income.
I'm not.
Am I correct?
No.
Okay, so you don't create income.
No.
And will there ever be a time that you create any income?
Maybe later in life when I'll have to dive in deeper in this conversation with my spiritual teacher, because maybe I will, but if I will be making income down the road, it will be donated. Because my husband and I were doing fine in our family. We don't strive to have a bigger home, to travel more, because again, material things don't make me happy anymore. So why would I need money? If I would be making money, I used to have nonprofit building wells in Kenya and helping wildlife. I would be spending this money on nonprofits, doing it or bringing the education to girls in Africa. I don't know why my heart is in Africa. I love Kenya and Tanzania and South Africa. But to me, for me personally, it doesn't bring anything. Most of the people are living like Ayurveda and Vedics, as teachers would explain, in 3 different layers. The first layer is ignorance. When people are constantly scared that they're not going to make it in life, they're drinking, they're using drugs in order to survive, and they're wishing to other people harm because they're jealous and they're angry and they're dissatisfied. They lived in the past. They live in the past. They cannot forgive their parents. They constantly complain about life, work, government, everything. Then the second layer of society lives in a state of passion. And in a state of passion, people are constantly chasing something. I need more income. I need to have a better job, or I need to find a husband or wife. I need a better home. I need more cars. I need to go to this vacation. I need more. And so these people dealing with a lot of anxiety and stress because nothing is ever enough. They're constantly chasing something next. And so they're overwhelmed. And so 99% of the people are living in a state of ignorance or passion. And most of the time they go back and forth, and only the third layer of society, and it's less than 1% of the people who live in a state of goodness. And in a state of goodness, people live to make a difference because they realize why they're born in the first place is to make a difference. And so if I said, to remember the first duty of a woman is to be happy, and the second to find her purpose. A man, number 1 duty is to have a victory over himself and achieve things, whatever that he wants in his life. And the second is to find happiness. And so our duty is, when you truly start to meditate, you realize you're born to make a difference. It's just some people going to be making difference through teachings. Second, people will be making difference through leadership. And these are managers, these are CEO of the companies, these are soldiers, army people. Third layer is business people. They're responsible for economy. And if they're making millions, they have to still donate and make a difference with society and not grab it everything to themselves. And the fourth is people who are here born to make a difference with others. These are doctors, lawyers, singers, carpenters. And so when people study spirituality, they clearly understand what is their purpose. And for the longest time, I thought I am just a hypnotherapist. I'm a counselor. I'm here to make a difference with people. But when I start studying spirituality, I realized I am a teacher. And when I realized I'm a teacher, it was easy for me to let go and realize, yes, in every session, I still bring knowledge to people. And that to me is very natural. And so when people live in their state, in Sanskrit, it's guna, in a guna of goodness, serving others and making difference, that's when person really starts to feel happy. That they're no longer chasing something. They're no longer attached. In order to be happy, I need to have this wife or this husband or this income or this job. They realize that their soul wants to connect to higher power or infinite power or universe or God, however people feel comfortable hearing it, and serve others. It's just for some people they want to serve wildlife, to others is nature, for others is women, to others is kids, cats and dogs, it doesn't matter, but we're here to make a difference. But in a capitalism society, we are born to just consume. And if we're just consuming, especially for us women, we become very out of tune with our soul and why we're here.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'm wondering about the other four, like you said, there's four categories essentially.
Yeah.
What about, what about the aspect of collecting money? So like the doctor or the lawyer or the business person, how are they able to fulfill that duty while also prioritize happiness, while also not being in their masculine energy, while also like predominantly in their masculine energy, while also taking care of their family? How would they go about that? Would they collect money? How does that work?
Yeah. For example, for a man, it's his duty as he is a doctor or lawyer collect this money because he is the provider and protector of a family. He needs to come home, bring bacon home, and make sure that his family is fed and that his family has education, that they have a roof over their head. But the problem is women think now, because we're so in a society of equality, where everything, whatever man is achieving, woman thinks she needs to achieve as well. And that's where there's a problem, because a women are out of tune with what their duties. Because if a woman wants to be a doctor, she will be out of sync with her soul. If she can be a doctor for an hour or two because she wants to, that's fine. But if she works 8-10 hours a day, she gives all to her patients, the love that is belongs to her kids and her husband, and then she comes home, family gets zero. And that's where all of the mental problems kicks in. Kids, her husband, everybody has anxiety or depression or panic attacks or migraine headaches, all of that because she's out of sync with herself. Right now, I'm not making money, but at least for 3 hours or 4 hours a week, I contribute myself. But it's on my time. It's when I don't take away love from my family. I prioritize family as number one. First, actually, relationship to higher power, then family, and then everybody else. But in a society, let's be honest, both men and women made work a priority, number one of importance. And if a man does it, it's okay because it's his duty. But when a woman does it, she violates herself and her family.
Yeah, and it sounds like the community too. And it sounds like you're either being a servant to your ego or you're being a servant to your soul that's in co-creation or in relationship with God or source. Yeah. And I would say that a lot of people, and this was I had a lot of cognitive dissonance when I was masquerading around like I was contributing, right? I'm a soul-centered leader. I contribute, but everything I did was to get something, right? Yes. I was serving, but you have to pay me this much for that.
Yes.
I am giving this, but I'm charging thousands of dollars for coaching a month.
Yes.
Right? And so now that I've created this spaciousness, I was like, is something wrong with me? Because I'm slowing down. I'm cooking more. I'm creating flower arrangements. I'm picking up my little cousin who needs my help. I'm also serving, but even then I'm like, I should make this more affordable for people.
Yes.
This needs to be more. And so that was challenging for me. And what would you say to the people that, because there's many people who are doing good work in this world.
Yes.
But there's so much suffering attached to it because it's coupled with, and I got to make this, and I got to make that, and I want to make this, and I need to make that.
Yes.
And they're like, and they might even be like, Alisa, I don't have a man.
Yes.
I can rely on. I don't feel like I can trust God.
Yes.
Or whatever the case may be. So.
Yeah. And do you remember when I said the state of passion? when people living in a state of passion, that's what they will be chasing. Nothing will ever be good enough. There gotta be more, and the next goal, and the next goal. And Vedas are explaining, Vedas are spiritual teachers, they explain that the goal is already a masculine. It belongs to men. And that's why when I used to have a goals, now I'm like, okay, I'm cutting all of those goals out because it's not important. We gotta learn to flow. And people live only in the present when they surrender themselves to higher power, because without it, the fears are gonna be running us. Women also, I've noticed, chasing money and success and independence because they're scared that they either gonna attract a toxic man or abusive man. They cannot trust that the man gonna protect them. And all of these fears they can overcome only by doing meditation or doing affirmations or a prayer. And so when woman overcomes those fears, she will never attract a toxic abuser. And so she has to first realize, I have this fear. But now we have in a society where women say all men are cheaters, all men are liars, all men are abusers. But if you think like that, that's all you're going to attract.
Exactly.
Men are wonderful. Men are building those high rises, the bridges. They create Apple, Macintosh, Tesla, you name it. They're amazing. They are our protectors. They are our leaders. And if we women think that they're bad, that's what they're going to show up as. But if we think they're wonderful, they have a room to protect, provide, and lead us and make us happy. And that's why yogis are saying, whatever we think, that's what we become. And we have to be very careful to what we think and what we say.
Yeah. Because the truth is, like, when I see people on TikTok, for example, and the young girls are saying, you know, all these bad things about men, and I'm like, but you attract what you are.
Yes.
At the end of the day, we have to take accountability for what we attract.
Yes.
I had a question for you because I want to move on to another subject that I don't want to forget about. But
Sure.
I wanted to close this out with this, is that I started to lean so much in my feminine. I am very present moment awareness. I just don't think that plans are even necessary to a certain point. I'm being guided by source in every step of the way because I'm in relationship with it. But there have been some teachers that are urging me to be more masculine, more structured, and to be more directive in my life. And it feels like my whole body collapses when I try to muster up that energy. And I'm like, I felt like something was wrong with me because here are these people telling me that, you know, I need to, you know, have this masculine energy inside more in order to protect myself and in order to have a plan. And it didn't feel right, but to the outside, someone who hasn't done the spiritual work, I would say it looks negligent. Yes. When you're in your feminine energy.
Yes. And you see, the more you're going to connect to the source and do the spiritual practices, the more you will understand, and your gut will even tell you, your intuition, your soul will tell you, whatever that they're saying, it doesn't feel right. Even if you're going to attract a business partner or a man, and when he's going to lie to you, when you're in tune with source, you're going to feel the lie from miles away. You'll see that person wants to take advantage of you. You will see the person is telling you that their logic, whatever that they read somewhere, but they haven't connected to the source themselves.
Yes, honey.
Yeah.
That's a great qualifier that I overlooked. Is this person connected to source? And where's my sovereignty?
Yes.
I can go straight to source as well and see if that's good for me.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the next part of the conversation, I want to pivot because I just wanted to get through some of that first, because that was some of the questions that my friends asked me to ask you.
Yeah.
And now I want to get into how we are in relationship with men. Mm-hmm. Because once I got into my femininity and I attracted a masculine provider male,
yes,
ultra masculine, I was like, whoa.
Yes.
First of all, interacting with him is not like interacting with my girlfriends.
Yes.
And the way that I influence and inspire him is not through trying to mother or teach him. Yes. So I'm curious of how let's see where I want to start. A lot of the time, I found myself not feeling like my partner is going deep enough. And I hear this a lot from women. He's not going deep enough. They want to have these deep conversations. They want to feel really intimate with their partner. But the masculine partner isn't always that way. They're not always emotionally available to keep pouring and keep pouring. Or maybe they are. I don't know. But what has been your experience with?
Well, first of all, let me acknowledge that how Vedas are explaining when a woman is born, if let's say this is a source, a higher power, and this is us on earth. When a woman is born, a girl is born, she's already closer to source. And men are here. Man has to overcome when he goes to school, for example, somebody's beating him, he needs to overcome this bullying. When he overcomes them, he becomes strong. He feels like, yes. Then he overcomes things in high school when he's beating boys and they're beating him in a football or whatever. And he feels like, okay, I'm strong. Then he says to girlfriend, I'm going to be loyal to you. You're my first girlfriend. And he stays loyal. He feels like he's becoming more and more man. And so for men, in order to get closer to spirituality and the depth that you're describing, he needs to overcome and conquer himself through difficulties. For women, when we go through challenges, you need to get to a job, or you need to get a good grade, or you need to be good at work in order to get bonus. All of the challenges doesn't make us go higher. It actually degrades us. That's why for centuries, father had to protect his daughter, and when she gets married, a husband had to protect her. That she's not going to go through heartbreak. She's not going to have to work in order to provide and protect. Her brother would protect her, or her uncle, or her grandfather. Everybody had to protect a woman. And so when you're referring now to a masculine man, his main duty again is to provide and to protect. And if he can do that, he already achieved this level, and he finally met his feminine woman that she's already born with, being closer to the source. But the next level for both man and woman is to start doing spiritual practices, either meditating or either doing affirmations or prayer. And that's the only way this masculine man gonna start going deeper to his soul and connect to his woman now, not only on emotional level and physical level, but on the spiritual level. And now we're talking about only less than 5% of men, or maybe realistically even less, because let's be honest, because a man's body, the nature, the mind, all it tells to him how to conquer things, how to overcome challenges that comes his way. And if a mama is fixing all of the complaints, he becomes more and more feminine, and he becomes more and more degraded. And so when a man was able to achieve, let's say, $1 million at work, or $100,000, and he's protecting his family, and he feels like, yeah, I feel comfortable, I feel good. What's next? And how he gets inspired and influenced a lot of times is by his woman, if she's doing spiritual practices. And he sees how she's feminine and growing, and he compares her to other women that guys are talking about, and he feels proud, he feels happy. At some point, a woman starts to influence a man to start going towards to spirituality. But at the same time, Vedas are also explaining some men and women born with such a hard layer of consciousness that it might take them 3 or 4 lives before they'll be ready to dive into the spiritual world. And sometimes it's our karma. If they're this masculine and they don't want, like my husband, he's like, I love what you're doing. Continue meditating, continue praying, go to retreats, help the world. I love it. I enjoy it. But I believe in God, and that's good enough for me. I don't eat meat, so I have to cook for him meat products. And for me, it's very hard. But again, I'm doing my mantra while I'm cooking for him. And he's like, I'm going to continue my meat. And I cannot make it wrong. Make sense? And so it's my biggest desire that he will start meditating with me, right? And be a part of the spiritual community. But the chance of it, if it will happen, great. But if not, we got to accept that. We gotta accept that. He talks to me about deep conversations lately, which is like, wow, hallelujah, I am happy, that's awesome. But when I tell him, can we do this, can we do that, spiritual practice, he's like, no, 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 you keep doing.
I relate to that so much. My partner is luckily vegan. He meditates, but he's so cerebral. And I am interested in two things. First of all, I can hear some people in the audience saying, I have to settle. That's a lot of feedback that I get.
Yeah.
Like, oh, so you're telling me to settle? You're telling me to dim myself? And I'm like, do you really think that this unicorn exists? That's totally perfect. You're not perfect.
Yes.
And you're going to find this perfectly masculine, feminine, harmonized guy it's like, yeah, they're out there, but first of all, do they want you?
Exactly.
Number one.
Exactly.
Number two. So first, what do you have to say to women who think that they're settling or having to play themselves down? And then second, let's get into how do you inspire and change to a shift in your man? So I want to answer those two questions.
Well, first of all, there's a reason why women are single. If a woman has a career as a priority, by default, she's not gonna attract a masculine man. That they have to understand that. Because the masculine and feminine, it just, again, if she's masculine, she will attract only a feminine man. Or she will be single because she's like, oh, he's not making enough money, he's lazy, then she'll be single. The only way a woman can attract a masculine man is by her doing the spiritual practices and start working on herself. And the more she does the spiritual practices, she's like an onion. She's gonna start peeling off those masculine layers. And as she's peeling off these masculine layers, she will start noticing that she's attracting a better and better man. And a woman, feminine woman, doesn't even have to go to a bar, look for a man. She's just walking on the street, she just walks into the store, she just walks into the park, and a masculine man gonna find her and will find a way to talk to her. She just gotta trust the process. And the second thing, a woman attracts the best of the best men when she starts to disconnect that she does even need a man. Because when she's desperate, she will settle for anything. But when she knows that she is already feminine, she serves the community, she helps women or girls or cats and dogs or wildlife or nature, she is in a community, makes a difference. Again, higher power, God, universe, however people feel comfortable, will send a man to this kind of woman. He will take care of her. Because we think we have to generate ourselves and go look for a man. And that never happens. If you're like that, you're gonna find the worst of the worst.
I think that the people that struggle the most are the people who have this like, I need a man, I need a man, I need a man. And I think that that's a replacement for I need God, I need God, I need God.
Yes.
More. And it's really hard to even surrender and submit to a man if you haven't learned to surrender and submit to a higher power. Now, I am with my partner, and I would love to learn how to influence and inspire him on a daily basis to be the best version of himself. And I would even love to learn how to channel more income through him. Instead of doing all those spiritual practices I used to do for myself, I would love to know how do you, instead of mothering a man and telling him, you're making me feel like this, and you're not connecting to me enough, and I need you to do this, and I want you to be more of this, how would you tell a woman to inspire change?
The best gift you can give to a man is by fully accepting him the way he is. Because if there's something I just want a little more income. Or just I want him to meditate a little bit more. Or I want him to drink a little bit less. Or I just want something. The something is about you're still not good enough. You gotta go this extra mile for me to fully love you. Because acceptance is the higher, most precious way for us to say to our partner, I love you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. And that really hits me deeply because as you were speaking, I was realizing how I that was basically me taking that ambition from myself,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
placing that on his shoulders because of my lack of connection to the higher power that is supporting me ultimately.
Yes.
That's what it felt like when you were speaking. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not able to accept him. And instead of trying to put that on his shoulders, my work is to surrender more and to connect more to a higher power so that I know that I'm supported and I don't need to go into that craving
Yes.
or into that needing him to be
Yes.
anything else.
Yes.
That's going to be a really profound practice. And I feel like I've been in practice of that and it's been a difficult practice for me.
And you see, you won't be able to get there overnight, even in a week
Mm-hmm.
or two. There's three
Mm-hmm.
layers of acceptance of a partner. When you start meditating, at some point you get to 30 to 45 minutes meditation in the morning and in the evening. And if you do that, you will see after 3 months, all of a sudden you start to understand what is in the way for him to make more money. You start to feel that he's still dealing with that insecurity from a parent or from the childhood incident or maybe the competition with brother or friends, whatever that is. And you're starting to connect to his soul. As you continue to meditate, you get to the second level, which is again going to take another month or two. You're starting to fully understand that he is working to overcome that fear that is still there from his childhood. And then you continue to meditate another month or two, you fully accept him. That this is who he is. That he is a beautiful soul. He's not just this body and mind and money producing machine or whatever, right? Because to some women it's like, man has to provide, and to them it's like this machinery voice is like he has to, and you fully disconnect from all of these material things and you just connect to his soul. And once you do that, you and him gonna connect on the soul level. And do you see, it comes from you. And once he feels that full acceptance, he will become unstoppable. But you cannot have that attachment. You cannot have this attachment because I see some people are meditating for my man to change, for me to get a good job, for me to have a child because I didn't have a child for the past 5 years. We're trying. And people are meditating for some things. And that means you're not connecting to the source.
Right.
And once you're connecting because you want to connect to the source, that's when everything starts to shift. And you not only accept yourself, you start to accept your partner. And that's a completely different level of a relationship where you're connecting on a soul level.
I think that's so, like, I call that like on brand for the universe. Like, it's very, like, I see spirituality is so paradoxical. It's like, in order to create the shift, then you have to totally accept, and it's always that way.
And by the way, let me add something to it. Once you get to that level of acceptance, you know what starts to happen? You realize that you don't even need him to make that much money.
Yeah, this is actually very symbolic for me because I had a similar experience, but it was with my work. I used to, years ago, I'm talking like 5-7 years ago, I was like, oh, manifestation. But then my connection to manifestation felt manipulative. It felt like I'm telling God what to do for me.
Yes.
So it felt really manipulative to me. And so I disconnected from it and I realized that I need to de-manifest.
Yes. And you see, again, all of the change is going to happen through source. Because once you fully trust the source, you have the faith, then you are not even worried about what's going on with his income, what's going on with his connection, deeper connection or not. You just fully surrender because, again, higher power puts us through all of the challenges for a purpose. Even when we go through suffering in life, it's his plan. Because only through suffering, we actually grow and we connect to him. Because if ever all the time we will be happy, we will never be connected to him. And that's what he wants from us the most.
Yes.
But if we're not connecting to God, then we're living in life really thinking, I'm the God, I can manifest, I can create, I can do this, I can do this. And we're just becoming dependent only on ourselves. And we consume ourselves and using higher power as a magic stick. Well, I manifest, do this for me. I manifest, do that for me, right? And then it's total inauthentic relationship to a higher power.
Totally.
And like Vedas are explaining, we are born for main reason and biggest reason to overcome exam and karmas of our this life and previous life. And to do that, we have to do it through God, connecting to him. And again, a lot of people are connecting God to religion. And I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about spiritual connection where you have relationship to a higher power. And it's on a daily basis. If you go to church only once a week and you think you have a relationship to God or higher power, it's inauthentic because you might be using logic. You listen to a priest or pastor, but you're still not connecting on the soul level. And on the soul level, you can connect to a higher power if you do daily practices. And that's why discipline is very important. People are suffering, but they're not doing anything. I see so many single moms. I have 3 kids. I have 4 kids. I have to leave kids in the daycare. But what are you doing to change your life? Going to work and having the roof over your head is not going to bring you happiness.
Absolutely. I think that's something that I'm integrating right now is more discipline and more devotion, because without it, what am I doing every day? Now that I have all this spaciousness, sure, it's nice to go to the beach and to cook and all those things, but without that connection to source, you will feel that void, I feel like, that we try to fill with money or shopping or our careers and things like that. And so before we close out, I would love to know if you had any closing remarks that Source is guiding you to say to the audience before we wrap up.
If people are ready for spiritual practices and know how to start meditating and learn spirituality and start peeling off their masculine energy and connecting to the source, I highly recommend sign up to this retreat, because without connection to God, like you said, we will feel empty. We will feel this void. And no matter how much money, how much success, independence, whatever that you have, material things that you think brings you happiness, you're not going to feel happy. You're still going to be chasing the next thing. And the happiness is happening in the moment, being in the present and enjoying life for what it is and accepting it. And without a higher power, without spirituality, we just don't have enough resources to overcome challenges and become happy.
Oh, I love all of this. I love this. Thank you so much for joining us.
Welcome.
I know that I will link where people can find you so that they can dive into some of these general concepts in a more specific way. And possibly we'll have Alisa back to go into one topic very deeply. That'd be great.
Would love to.
I really appreciate your time. Thank you for all that you do. And
you know how yogi says namaskar, which means from your consciousness, the place in your consciousness, thank you, and from the deep heart, thank you. So namaskar.
God.
Or some people say namaste, but namaskar means deeper. From the deeper of your soul and your consciousness, thank you.
You know, your women's groups and more of your teachings. And thank you so much for taking the time and your generous, genuine, authentic, contributive heart. I really appreciate it, Alisa.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you for spending this time with me.
Absolutely. It's been a
Until
pleasure.
next time.
Yes.
Bye.